Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1713A, and today's date is November 11th, 2018, and the title of the episode is The Central Bank Shifts Direction, Moves and Countermoves. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk about gold. Gold has been sought after, valuable, and highly regarded for thousands of years. Gold is still considered one of the safest investments on earth. Because of this stability, the IRS lets you use gold as part of your IRA or 401k rollover. Noble Gold are specialists in this type of product and have helped thousands of folks just like you to save for a happy and comfy retirement. If you would like to join them in that, call 877-646-5347 now and talk to the experts about how to get your gold IRA started, or go to noblegoldinvestments.com and start your investment in gold today. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we know, the central bank-controlled world, it is coming to an end. And we need to remember that there are good guys and bad guys in the central bank, just like there's good guys and bad guys in the government right now. The deep state, they still have operatives still working in these areas. And this is why we see everything happening at once. And even though Powell was put into place into the Fed chair position by Trump, there are still others within the Fed that don't agree with what he's doing. They want a different outcome, especially when you move up and you move up to the Rothschilds. They definitely want a different outcome because their plan, their entire plan, was to move the system someplace else with a huge event and start it all over. And they were hoping that the United States would lose in this event, which would be a war, and they would be able to have this one world government. That's what they were planning for. Now, we know the central bank system is coming to an end because it doesn't last that long. Throughout history, the central bank system was only designed to last 40 to 45 years, and that is it. Yes, they can continually print, they can continually create the currency, but eventually what's going to happen, the system breaks down. And you really can't do anything to stop it. It gets worse and worse as time goes on. In the beginning, everyone feels great because there's inflation. There's not that much debt. All of a sudden, home prices, wages, they just boom, they shoot up. And then eventually what happens, it starts to slow a bit, and then when you come to the end phase, everything turns around. So what we're seeing right now is increased financial instability. And we're starting to see that this creation of currency, it is all coming to an end. Now remember, the idea that it's impossible for a government to go bust is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the mainstream media, the central banks, they want you to believe this, where they say, well, hey, all we have to do is create more currency. No problems. We can never go bust. Well, look at countries from the past. Look at Argentina. Look at Germany. Look at Zimbabwe. Look at all of these countries. And if you go further back in time, you'll find some more. They've always gone bust. And what we're seeing is a complete and utter destruction of the entire system. And what central banks like to do is when the whole system starts to fall apart, they like to go from one fiat system to another. Now, I know people call it fiat. I'm just going to use fiat right now because a lot of people agree with fiat and a lot of people don't agree with fiat, but I'm seeing that you can pronounce it both ways. So right now, what we're seeing is that the central bank wanted us to move from one fiat system to another. That is always their plan. The new plan is not that. The new plan is to have a people's system where the people create their own currency. Maybe it'll be backed by gold. Maybe gold will be in the background to give confidence to people. Now, Alistair MacLeod, he wrote this great article, and it's titled The End of the Nanny State and What Happens to Prices When Gold is Money. Let me just read a portion of this to get an idea of how things are going to change. When gold is money and bank credit is eliminated, trade imbalances cannot arise. This is to say, cross-border purchases cannot be financed by credit, other perhaps than self-extinguishing trade finance specifically for the purpose of trade settlement. Imports, including oil and other commodities, have to be paid for on an aggregated basis by exports. It is for this reason that trade imbalances cannot occur between nations settling their trade with sound money. The implication is that most commodity speculation in fiat money economies is eliminated with gold because speculation, whether it be backed by lines of credit or in futures, which ultimately are backed by credit, becomes severely restricted. Speculation cannot be eliminated entirely because there is nothing to stop two parties from entering into a wager without the services of a credit-issuing banker. Therefore, destabilizing price trends are less likely to be set in motion. The demand for risk management through the use of derivatives is likely to recede as well, due to the absence of volatility of the currency side of prices. An absence of central bank intervention, which ceases with sound money, ends the destabilizing credit cycle. It is this that drives fluctuations in the purchasing power of currencies, both by increasing the quality of money and credit and by destabilizing our monetary preferences. The price volatility we experience today is almost entirely due to excessive quantities of dollars sloshing around in the global system. Eliminate that, and you eliminate the single most important source of price volatility. And everything that we see today, and we have to remember, we've been brainwashed to think this is normal. Actually, if you go back to 1913, prior to the 1913, they talked about central banks. They talked about having a sound money system. And then after 1913, the central bank, well, they got rid of all of this. And as time went on, they removed a lot more. And this is what they do to brainwash the public into never looking at the central bank. But we know the central bank. This is the entire problem of our system. Because out of this comes corruption, comes borrowing, comes funneling of money to different areas, comes payoffs. And to stop a lot of this, I'm not saying it's all going to go away, but to stop a lot of this, you got to go to the source. Just like if you think about the Islamic State in Syria, where they said, this group was impossible to stop. It's going to go on for 6 years. Well, all you had to do is stop the money supply. And that was the oil shipping to Turkey, where they filled up on oil, put them on trucks, drove them into Turkey, and this kept the whole entire system going. Russia came along, shut it all down. Guess what? Revenue fell to zero. What happened to the Islamic State? They no longer exist today. Maybe in small pockets, but they don't have the operation. Do the same thing with the deep state. Go to the source of where they get their currency. Stop it. Guess what happens? You cut off everything. Now, the central bank players, they're not going to want to give this up. The deep state, they're not going to want to give this up. They're going to continually fight until the very end. And you can see with the Federal Reserve, there are good guys and bad guys within this organization. Now, we need to remember, the ultimate goal is to go after the central bank. This is why, again, Trump has Andrew Jackson hanging on his wall in his office. And right now, he's working with Powell to push this entire system to the very edge, while keeping the illusion alive that the economy is doing well. This way, it cannot be blamed on him. Remember, it's about optics. But right now, the Federal Reserve, they're going to be publishing a semi-annual report on financial stability. The report, the first of which, will come on November 28th. It will include a summary of the central bank's framework for assessing the resilience of the U.S. financial system. Now, I do believe they're going to use this to explain their part of the narrative, and they're going to try to counter what is going on here. Because they're going to put out that everything is great, their policy is working, and everything is fantastic, just like the stress tests. Remember, what they're doing here is they're setting up an illusion, showing everyone how great they're doing. And by showing the stress tests of banks, they could say, wasn't us, we're showing them all strong. Look, we're putting out a report. We're saying everything we're doing is fantastic. Trump has already pointed to the Federal Reserve, saying that they're going to be responsible for when the economy comes down. So again, both sides, they're both going to battle. And they're trying to keep the narrative. But right now, Trump, his team, the Patriots, they do have the narrative. There's nothing the central bank can do at this point because the economy is doing fantastically. As Trump continually comes out and tells the world that the central bank, as they raise rates, that little portion of him just saying that, people are going to start to let it seep in that, oh yeah, rates are rising, the housing market's falling, rates are rising, the automobile industry is declining, rates are rising, student loans are declining, rates are rising, things are becoming more expensive. They're going to let this seep in. The Federal Reserve is kind of stuck right now. And they don't know what to do. And I'm talking about that group within the Federal Reserve that's trying to hold on to everything that they have. The other group, they want this system destroyed. And that's where Trump and the Patriots have control. They have control over the narrative. So no matter what the deep state tries to do, no matter what the central bank tries to do with their moves and countermoves, the Patriots are always one step ahead. Now, before I forget, don't forget to follow me on Minds. That is Minds.com. It is free to join, and actually, by commenting and posting, you will earn cryptocurrency. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.